download it, Paul. And I can tell you this, I work off of a Mac. I cannot load it on my Mac, but I can load it on my iPad.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different. You just have to play with it.
Okay. Maybe we should do that in advance. I'll do that tonight.
Yeah, good question.
Okay, anything else? Seeing none, we'll move on to office space. That's me. Dang it. I got trying to get back into board book it, if you hold just a second. What I got is we agreed to give up our space on the south end of the building, and on the north end of the building, we got full of files. So what I need to do is have someone help me. Josie, hang on, I about got it. I need someone to help me figure out what to do with them files. I don't know if you want to store them in that room or if you want them moved somewhere. But I've been in contact with Miss Brown with Archives, and I'm not able to meet with her. So I'm wanting to assign that to someone else. And I'm thinking someone like Paul Revard, Tolly Redcorn, and maybe Bill Lynn to discuss moving them, uh, getting where we can at least move our office in there. There's 8 office spaces. And then there's a huge room in there. So I don't know if we need to, someone could, discuss on where to move them, how to move them, and then archive them or digitize them. That's kind of where I'm at right now. Open for discussion. No hands?
Chairman.
Mr. Redcorn.
I propose we move, we're going to meet next Monday, our group, production and development. And then Mr. Revard, I think you meet as well that week. He's on our committee. If that's okay, Mr. Revard, since you're well plugging, we'll discuss it next week and get back with the chairman and just handle that task. We're either going to archive or move them somewhere because we've got to have space to move our staff and people in our new area.
Thank you, Councilman Redcorn. I appreciate that.
Welcome.
Councilwoman Foreman.
I just wanted to remind everyone that I have offered my office space as storage room. So, I think a few others have as well, but it's available. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll take that into consideration.
Okay. Moving on, then Tolly, I appreciate that effort, and you can get back to me whenever you can.
Okay.
Going on to biennial consultation follow-up report, Marcia Harlan. I would first off like to say we've all been in receipt. We received your letter, and you've done a remarkable job, and I appreciate your effort and applaud it. Would you like to discuss it?
Yes, Wilson did look at it right after I sent it out to council. He responded, so hopefully everybody got that response. His changes were very minimal. He thought it was a good idea. Of course, we know he's real well connected in DC, and he thought it was a good idea. And one of the things I put in the email that we hadn't talked about before was perhaps trying to get a Zoom conference or a call, or if the pandemic ever ends, maybe we travel to DC. I don't know, but we can't even travel to Pahuska, so I'm not sure we can ever travel to DC. But I do think that we need to be able to reiterate and go a little more in depth on what we're requesting. And I really feel like Tara Sweeney is going to reach out to us and say, what specifically do you want? And then we can get more down in the details with her. I appreciate all of the council members who responded. I think there were only 2 who didn't, and maybe they just agreed with allowing the others to do it. Paul and Susan both put a lot of effort into making sure I had all of the adequate information, so I appreciate that. And again, we just tried to keep it real general to let her know, hey, we got some real issues and we need your help. You said you'd help us, so we're asking for that help now. And so I think it's ready to be sent, and to be signed by the chair. I'm not sure that requires a vote because we already did vote on it. It probably just requires some consensus that it's approved at this point.
Councilman Redcorn, do you have anything to add to that?
The only thing was my commentary to Councilwoman Harlan was, I believe a lot of these issues we can handle in a successful tariff agreement with DIA. And I did put that in my writing to the whole council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All right. I think I agree with Councilwoman Harlan. I think consensus of the council, and I will sign that as soon as possible, probably electronically since the pandemic, and we'll get that in the mail as soon as possible, unless I hear anything different from Councilwoman Foreman.
Yeah, I just had one comment. I sent out 2 responses to the letter. And by the way, I said so in my email, and it was a great letter. And I read Councilmember Harlan's email after I read and responded to Mr. Pipestem's, but I did put in a number of verbiage changes in the list of things on the addendum, and then I turned around and streamlined it because I read hers and she said she wanted it to just be general. So I did streamline it. I emphasized at our consultation meeting that we wanted reports in Excel format. So that's how I streamlined it in that first section of the addendum. But if you don't want to use that, which is fine with me, I would recommend only one thing, and that's that under one of the small letter items in the addendum, you are putting production graphs with permits and whatever the other one was. And I think that's better suited to go with the production reports, because we actually want graphs of all of them, but we particularly want the graphs for production.
And I'm real okay with making that change, Mr. Chairman. Just change it to what suits the most sense to you. Certainly, I just took a stab at drafting this, and I ran it by Wilson to make sure that everything we were asking for was appropriate and cordial, per the council's permission to do that. So any change like that, you're not going to hurt my feelings by changing it. I think that makes sense. If production to production, and maybe Councilwoman Foreman could email that to you so you could see exactly, and have Lacey or somebody make that change.
I did last night. Yeah.
I like that. That's fine with me. Councilman Redcorn.
Thank you, Chair. Asking that you send that letter, Chairman, right away.
You bet. I'll get on it as soon as we make the changes that Councilwoman Foreman indicated. Okay, if we're good with that, we're going to move on because we got a lot to cover.
Lacey wants to know if that final can be sent to her. They've never seen it.
Okay, Ms. Harlan, can you send that to her?
I think it would be better for Susan to send her version, since she has the change, rather than me emailing and then Susan emailing and so forth. Just Councilwoman Foreman, if you could email that change in there, I think that would be easier.
I'll be glad to.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you. Whatever's easiest and quickest. I like to get that out. Okay, going on to the next agenda item, Kansas Conservation Mitigation Plan, Ms. Foreman.
We actually talked about that in executive. I mean, we got our update. We know what we're waiting on. It's really not an executive, but I might go ahead and just let everybody know what was said.
Yeah, if you would, so that all the listeners, people that are listening in, our head right owners and others, if somebody could give just an overview of where we are that I think that would be appropriate.
Okay. Chairman, would you like to do that?
No, you're on the agenda and you
Okay,
go.
I'll be glad to. We added well, just for an update for those that are tuning in and are not familiar with it, we have spent a year or more putting together a conservation mitigation program or plan for our acreage. The mineral estate owns a little over 1,000 acres up in Chase County, Kansas. And to try to alleviate some of the delays in our drilling program, we have worked with the Fish and Wildlife to put together a conservation mitigation plan and create an acceptable habitat for the American burying beetle. And we will, for drilling permits in Osage County, if surveys find beetles, we now have a way to expedite drilling permits by providing habitat for the beetles up in Kansas, so that our producers can drill their wells. The plan had a few minor changes, and it's in the hands of the Fish and Wildlife Service right now, and we're waiting for them to return the final plan for us to implement it. And we'll probably have a special signing ceremony, because it's a big deal and it will allow us to get permits approved faster. So that's, in a nutshell, that's it.
Very good, very good. Anyone else need Councilman Waller?
Just in a reflection of not only the adjustments to Councilwoman Harlan's letter, but also when we're talking to our shareholder, these plans need to be recognized as the Osage Reservation, not Osage County. And there's a reason I'm wanting to add that to the criteria. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I'm moving on to committee reports, and that will be kind of extensive. And I am going to go by what's in board booklet, not what's in your agenda. But we do start off with budget committee. I think that's Councilwoman Gray.
Can you bring that document up, please? Last meeting, we brought it to full council, and then it was reverted back to the committee to continue to work out budget modification. Due to this, just the way the pandemic is, it made more sense to work with Lacey, Vicki Moeller, and the treasurer, and we were able to hammer out, and this is what our monthly report will look like. We had them, because they couldn't tell us some of the line items. We needed a clear direction of our C395, our S510. Where that green area was, we had the Summit there, and Councilman Foreman said that Summit hadn't been, she's working on getting that. We'll get that. And then we found out that we had $44,000 in CARES money that was giving to us, and I wish Candy was still on the phone, because she was the one who notified, and Vicki Moeller had mentioned it to me, but we didn't, they go, well, you have that CARES money, but we didn't know how much. Well, now we know. The other parts are, of course, the well plugging, and also, well, both of them are well plugging grants, and we just added those in there. So this gives you a snapshot of what we have. So, well, okay. So, anyway, I hope that this, now we're able to make the modifications that we need to make. We had 2 meetings before, well, in July and one in August, and the committee members had advised that none of us were comfortable with making an appropriation until we had the numbers. So we checked, Lacey has verified that with our accountant, which is Vicki Moeller. So from this information, our next is a resolution. A resolution, can you bring the resolution up? Okay. And I'm going to read this resolution. On number 3, I don't know who's.
I think it's Myron's microphone.
You shut it off? Okay. Okay. So the Osage Minerals Council, was elected to carry out the business of the Osage Mineral Estate and believes it in the best interest of the estate and head right holders to modify the budget as follows. All remaining monies from C 395 FY to C 395 FY19, line item 5705. Just so you all know, 5705 is our legal services. All monies from election FY18 to C 395 FY18, line item to 5705. All monies from C 395 FY18 to C 395 FY18, line item 5705. All monies from C 395 17 to C 395 FY17 to 5705. Therefore, be it resolved, the Osage Minerals Council hereby approves moving a total of $157,593.99 from the previous fiscal year's line item to 5705 as mentioned above. And so that's the resolution that we are asking for today. And this will allow us, like I think we've had this discussion already today, and but we need legal counsel, and also we have two legal counsels, and we got some coming up. So all these will be moved to that line item. And the way that they do that once they take this resolution, it will be moved over, and then those monies will be moved from the treasurer's to FY20 line item for 5705. So that's my motion.
A second.
Okay, thank you. Chairman?
I got a motion on the floor made by Councilwoman Gray and seconded by Councilwoman Foreman. Discussion? Councilman Redcorn?
Thank you, Chair. Has our attorney looked at this? I just want to make sure that election money is part of the trust funds, or is it not? Money coming from, but just want to make sure he looks at it, so we're not combining Fed and non-Fed dollars into an account.
I'm gonna have, Lacey has her hand up, and I'll have her, and we did work with this with the treasurer and them, and they're wanting to close out all of those line items. Go ahead.
The election money is money taken from the C395 anyway, and we should have closed it out before. So.
Council rules its own election. Councilwoman Harlan.
Just a point of procedure. Budget modification wasn't on the agenda, so before we pass a motion, can we amend the agenda today to add that?
We'll have to suspend the regular rules of presenting and voting. Is that correct, or just not on the agenda?
It's not on, I don't see it on the agenda, so we didn't give proper notice on it, but I think what we can amend the agenda to include that so that somebody doesn't come back and say we did something improper here.
Chair, I had submitted this to you last Friday, that these items would be on the agenda.
I submitted everything to
And
I
what,
submitted, I'm not gonna throw my assistant under the bus, but I asked her to check on what you had submitted, so whatever, I remember.
I don't think,
email.
I don't think, Chairman, we need to, and Councilwoman Gray, I don't think it's to anybody's fault or anything. I just think we don't want somebody to come back and say we voted inappropriately on something. If we could just ask you to rescind your motion for a moment and the second for a moment, uh, and allow another motion to happen first.
I rescind my motion and
I'll amend my second.
then I make the motion that we suspend the rules because we have other resolutions.
And that we would amend the resolution, that we would amend the agenda.
Yes, and that we will amend the agenda to reflect adding these resolutions that are recommended, are out of committees, I'm sorry.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we got a motion to amend the agenda from Councilwoman Gray and a second by Councilwoman Harlan. Any discussion?
Yeah, Chairman, I have a discussion.
Yes. Second chair.
The well plugging committee also is probably going to have some resolutions too. So what do we do for that?
Well, we'll take care of that when we get to it.
Well, if we're going to amend the agenda, why don't we just amend it to where the well plugging committee and all the other resolutions come forth will be added to it.
Councilwoman Harlan, is that
Chairman,
agreed?
if Councilwoman Gray could amend her resolution to amend the agenda for action to come out of committees.
I make the amendment to any committees that have actions needed to be considered, resolutions considered.
And I'll amend my second. That should take care of everything procedurally, so we're protected there.
Okay. And there's anything out of business development? I see was that put in late also? Okay, well, let's do the agenda.
I do have something to say on that. I was going to wait until that, but if while we're doing this, fixing things, the business development meeting did not actually have a motion to bring forward this resolution today, but it's something we all kind of agreed on. So I would amend the motion to allow this to come out of committee and be considered.
That's the standing motion right now, is to allow any committee actions to go forward.
Okay.
All right. Without further discussion, call for the question.
Second Chair Red Eagle,
Yes.
Councilman Rebar, Councilman Waller,
No.
Chairman Yates,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foreman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray,
Yes.
Councilwoman Harlan,
Yes.
Councilman Redcorn.
Oh,
I'm sorry, did you say no?
no,
Motion passes.
Okay. Now, Councilwoman Gray, you can go ahead with your budget.
Yes, thank you. I make the motion that we approve the resolution from moving the monies to 5705.
I second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Motion by Councilwoman Gray, second by Councilwoman Foreman. Discussion? Marcia, you got okay. No discussion, call for the question. Councilman Waller, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. It's just that add the fiscal year to that resolution.
Councilwoman Gray, are you agreeable?
Yes, I can do that. I make the motion that remove all remaining monies from FY19, FY18, FY 17 to, pardon me. Lacey?
We are moving into their respective fiscal years, and we're just going to code it differently in micro, so it needs to stay in the fiscal year they're in.
Okay.
So how do I amend that? I thought I was moving those monies from there to the 5705.
You're just moving them from 19 to wherever they are to 195705, just like it's written.
All remaining monies from FY 19 to 5705. All monies from FY 18 to 5705. All monies from the election FY 18 to 5705. All monies from 17 to 5705. Susan, are you?
No?
Call for the question.
Mr. Chairman, I have a hand up.
I'm sorry, I've lost my, okay, yes, I see it. Councilwoman Harlan.
Is the resolution, we're only moving that line item within each of those respective fiscal year budgets, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Call for the question.
Councilman Rebar,
Yes.
Councilman Waller,
Yes.
Chairman Yates,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foreman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray,
Yes.
Councilwoman Harlan,
Yes.
Councilman Redcorn,
Yes.
Second Chair Red Eagle.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I have a second motion on the form that we, can you pull that up, Linnea, please? This one, this colored form. Okay, so while we were looking at all of this, and where you see Blue Sky, CD Blue Sky Bank, we had this discussion months ago where we asked, the treasurer had said that he was going through looking at percentages of interest and shopping banks. So when we got this, it showed that the intent was to get it out of Blue Sky Bank and move it to something comparable or a better amount. He advises that he did not move it, and they had a good rate. But in discussion, we had a lengthy discussion about this, is that we wanted him to move that money to research CD rates and present them to the Osage Minerals Council. And so we put it in a form of a resolution. Can you go to the second resolution, please? Okay, so under number 1, the motion is that the Osage Mineral Council hereby approves requesting Jim Littleton, Osage Nation Treasurer, to research CD rates and present them to the Osage Minerals Council. Then after we make that research, then we will be able to move them.
The form of a motion
Yes.
I second it.
and seconded by Second Chair Red Eagle. Discussion, and I see Councilman Redcorn.
One item Ms. Gray has on, Councilwoman Gray, is the well plugging money. Kate Thomas sent email saying that that's under the self-governance agreement. So, and we had a conversation with chairman, and the way money's going to flow is through the well plugging, and then chairman. But I don't think we need to monitor that budget. Candy Thomas has it, and Tammy Leeper and that group. So that would be my recommendation, is we let that committee and through Tammy, Candy Thomas monitor and maintain that budget.
Um, we're just talking about the CD and Blue Sky Bank.
I know, but you've got plugging budgets on your graph there. I just want to make.
No, it's just, if you read the, it is just to research the CD rate.
Oh, I know, I'm making a comment.
Okay. You know what? I think we should, I'm gonna amend my resolutions just to response to you. Research the CD rate at Blue Stem Bank. That way it really just goes with that CD. Because the
Blue
other one,
Sky.
Blue Sky Bank.
so I will make that amendment to my motion is to include Blue Sky Bank.
I second.
I believe that's how it reads anyway.
Yeah, if you put research CD rate at Blue Sky Bank, then he's going to Blue Sky Bank and.
I know, but I was just trying to.
List the rates there, so the way it reads now is he's getting rates from other places.
We really can't hear you. I know they can't hear what you're saying. Can you give her your microphone?
If she adds in there to research CD rates at Blue Sky Bank, then that makes it look like he's going to Blue Sky Bank and asking them for their rates, the way it reads now.
I see how you're reading it. Right.
The way it reads now is like it goes out to other places and gets rates.
So should we just keep it as is?
That's up to you guys.
I think,
But I don't know how someone who is, critiquing proper, English, but the Osage Minerals Council was elected to carry out the business of the Osage Mineral Estate and believes it to be in the best interest of said estate and head right holders to allow the Osage Nation Treasurer to check on higher rates for the CD currently held by the Osage Minerals Council at Blue Sky.
okay,
I think it's fine the way it reads.
okay, I'm good with it too. I hope, yeah, just call for the question.
Councilman Waller,
Yes.
Chairman Yates,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foreman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray,
Yes,
Councilwoman Harlan,
Yes.
Councilman Redcorn,
Abstain.
Second Chair Red Eagle,
Yes.
Councilman Rebar.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I vote on that one?
Yes.
Okay. Good. I'm trying to jump ahead on the agenda and I'm trying to keep everything going. Okay, I was looking down to the budget.
I have one final thing on the budget. So if you look go to the actual budget. Okay, so if you go under where it says CD Blue Sky Bank, IIM account, we collectively said that we would request out of committee that the chair send a letter over to Janelle Perry over at OST, and we need to research, we need more information on this IIM account, and because we were in discussion, we don't know what the percentage rate is of this, if it's one head write or if it's multiple or if it's percentages, but we haven't touched it and it's sitting there. And just talking historically, from 2 years ago, it was discussed that this was for the Osage Minerals Council. So we want to make sure that as we show it on our books, that it is exactly this number, which I know a year ago it was like $801. So we're going to be submitting a letter for your signature, and I don't know if we need to do that by resolution or, that was part of our discussion, that we want to have a full story and information on our finances. Financial.
Well, that wasn't on any of the information I went over and board book it. So I'm not sure. Councilwoman Harlan, are we covered in that amended agenda?
We would be covered in there. I have a comment after Councilwoman Gray's finished with her motion.
Okay.
I'm discussing whether we need to do a motion or not. I know that the members of the committee, we said that we would want to do a letter, but we didn't do a resolution for that. So that's where it's left. So I'm open to any other input that you might have.
I think a letter from the chairman that just asks for the balance and ownership there's nothing required of council to do that. We're just seeking information on that matter, Mr. Chairman.
That's fine with me. I can do that. I just was this is first I've heard of it, and it's I go through the board book it and kind of look at what's on the agenda. So anyway, in the future, I'd like everything at least on board book it so we can, not be totally surprised.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
Can I make a comment? Okay.
Yes.
Could whoever's running that screen put that budget back up? I just want to point something out. I was on the call and the CARES line in green that you see, it says 44,000. Mm-hmm. So according to the treasurer, the way this happened is the executive branch removed 44,000 of our congressional appropriation and gave us 44,000 from the CARES money.
Correct.
So it was kind of in lay terms, a bait and switch of sorts. It's not like we got an additional 44,000. They took 44,000 from us, according to the treasurer. I did in committee ask the treasurer to provide congressional authority for that, so we can see one, how we lost 44,000 only to be given a very regulated 44,000. As everyone on here knows, the CARES money has to be spent pursuant to COVID. The 44,000 we had before didn't have COVID parameters around it. In addition, the 44,000 we had before could have maybe been carried over. I'm not exactly certain of that, but this cannot be carried over. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that we didn't gain an additional 44. They took the nation money back and gave us COVID money to replace it. And this COVID money has certain parameters around it. And I think we are waiting on the treasurer to provide the authority for that change and, how it is they anticipate we are to spend this 44,000 before December 30, 2020. Thank you.
Chairman?
Thank you, Councilwoman Harlan, for that clarification. Very interesting. Yeah, that's that is interesting, and I appreciate the clarification. Councilwoman Gray,
yes.
I hear you.
I had received, and I just sent it out to you all. I'm sorry, I received this. I was just going through my emails, and evidently the treasurer did contact Candy Thomas, and the response was to all. The COVID CARES 19 distribution of CARES Act for the Minerals Council is for tribal budget shortfalls due to the loss of the gaming revenue. This money was this money was distributed under the self-governance agreement and should be spent for the tribal budget line items that are related to the Minerals Council operations. These funds should be expended by 9/20/21, but my advice is to spend these funds first before expending additional tribal funds. I have attached to the authority to obligate ATO, which is the official notification. The ATO shows that the entire amount of the total distribution to various programs and departments directed by chief and executive staff. The Minerals Council distribution is $44,000. Please let me know if there's additional questions. So that's the update that we got from Office of the Chiefs from Candy Thomas. And so if we are to spend that $44,000, and Marcia, if you can help me decipher how this should go, is that we need to spend this almost immediately.
Chairman, I have my hand up.
Councilwoman Gray, are you done?
I'm asking Councilwoman Harlan for some assistance on this question.
And I'm not able to answer that right now. I haven't seen what Candy Thomas sent, but I still don't think that and you may have forwarded it, Margo. I just haven't received it yet.
I did.
But
if we can.
We still have to have, it says budget shortfall. I don't know. I think we're gonna have to look at that, Mr. Chairman, before we take any action on it.
I agree. Yeah.
And I'll yield back to Paul.
Councilman Revard.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councilwoman Harlan. I'd like to research the possibility, excuse me, of not accepting this $44,000. I agree with Councilwoman Harlan that it's coming with strings attached, and now we learn that not only are we restricted on how we can spend it, but now we're forced to spend it within a certain time period or lose it. If they've already taken it out of our other line item, or whatever you call that account, the appropriations, I'd like to see if it can be reversed. Just let them have the 44,000 back and put it back in to the other appropriation total. At least it's something that I'd like to see us look into in research. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Redcorn.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I agree with Paul. That's kind of what there's a lot of strings attached to the CARES money. The other thing I want to just warn, these trust monies, that once they anybody pulls those monies out of the trust, you're dealing with the sovereignty issue too. But just to be aware that if we're taking money out somewhere and getting interest, we could be crossing a line on sovereignty and trust and versus non-trust. Just to be aware. That's why I'm asking that when the Business Budget Committee does something like this, they might want to have a quick chat with our attorney just to make sure that everything's on the up and up before we start moving money around. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Gray, seeing all the concerns, do you want to make a motion to table that?
Yes, absolutely. We'll put it back into committee. I didn't have a resolution for it. Councilwoman, thank you, Councilman Harlan, for bringing that up. I was more focused on the budget. It's been a long time coming, getting everything straightened out with the treasurer's office, many hours that we've spent on this. And then we had just found out this information during our meeting. And so I appreciate you bringing it up, but we all received this and we have a lot of questions of how this can be spent or if it's encumbered in some way, and I appreciate all the input from all the council. So we'll table this and we'll put it back into our committee to discuss further and come back.
Motion by Councilwoman Gray to table and seconded by Councilman Redcorn. Call for the question.
Chairman Yates,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foreman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray,
Yes,
Councilwoman Harlan,
Yes.
Councilman Redcorn,
Yes.
Second Chair Red Eagle,
Yes.
Councilman Revart,
Yes.
Councilman Waller. Councilman Waller,
I think we lost him. I don't see him on the screen.
yeah.
motion passes.
Okay, I want to go down the item on the agenda, well plugging. Councilman Foreman or Councilman Revard?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Well, just real briefly to give you an update, we've got 5 wells plugged, including 3 that were on one of our head right owners' properties, Patricia Smith, who sent us all a letter of gratitude. Her wells were pretty easy to plug compared to the others. We had 2 others in addition to hers, the Brandstetter number 36 and the Heidlich number 11. Those were in the neighborhood of $47,000 and $50,000 to plug. I think we haven't spent, but I think under 200,000 so far. I don't know exactly what's been paid out. The Osage Nation is sending me the invoices that are coming in from these wells go to our geologist, Bill Lynn. He reviews them, sends them to me. I review them. He also sends them to the Osage Nation. And then they turn around and repackage them and send them to me as a chairman for me to give them a formal approval to pay after Bill's already approved, you know, uh, given his approval for whatever that's worth, for basically checking the invoices for accuracy. And then they're submitting to these invoices to me on Monday, on every Monday, and have me approve them or disapprove them by the next Wednesday, by that Wednesday, 2 days later. So yesterday, I actually approved the payment of 9 invoices yesterday. So that's kind of how things are going. We currently have 2 rigs working on 2 other wells now. So we're moving right along. We're getting pretty good cooperation from the surface owners, which is nice. Uh, but I do have 2 proposed resolutions that came out of committee that we held on Friday. One of them is, if you recall, the full council approved our committee to amend our budget to add $20,000 of the $3 million dollar appropriations to a line item for equipment and supplies. We have blown through that by buying mostly a string of tubing and some other miscellaneous supplies. We're down to $1,400 in that one line item. We would like to amend our budget to bring over another 30,000 onto that line item for equipment and supplies, which would have the effect of having originally 50,000 on that line item. And this is to use for instance, one of the wells we had to plug didn't have any pipe in it, and it was gassing real bad. Steve Kohler, the engineer for the BIA, when we advised him of what was going on, where Bill Lynn is in daily contact with the BIA on these type of matters, and it's 24 hours a day too. By the way, some of the decisions are made on 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, but we needed to run surface casing in to 276 feet to protect the fresh water from this gas. So we had to buy this, this surface casing, 8 5/8 diameter pipe. So that's why we need this line item, is to buy tubing and casing, well heads and connections. So I don't know if it's on board book it or not, but my first resolution is asking for you all to vote to move $30,000 to this one line item referred to as supplies.
Paul, may I just interject? The resolutions are up on the screen right now, so everybody can see them.
Okay, well, thank you. So I'm looking for a second for that resolution.
I second.
Chairman, we have a resolution.
Yeah, we got a motion on the floor and a second. We got a motion by Councilman Foreman, and I'm trying to get my video back on, and a second by Councilman Rivard, and a second by Councilwoman Foreman. Open for discussion.
I have it.
Councilman Redcorn.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. Did Tammy Leeper and Candy approve this resolution?
Yes, they participated in the meeting.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, sir.
And Chairman, I have maybe a possible amendment to this resolution. We're in discussion right now. So if I may have one more thing to add.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't anticipate having to manipulate this budget, except for just things like this that come up. But I wonder if, and I think Councilman Redcorn may have hit on this topic a little earlier, is this something that really needs to be brought up and voted on by the full council, or if I was just wondering if I might change the resolution to say that we have that our plugging committee has the authority, with the cooperation and authorization of the Osage Nation, Tammy Leeper and Candy Thomas, to modify a budget for this type of thing if it should come up again without having to bring it to the entire council. I'd like to know what you all think about that.
Paul, that's in the resolution.
Oh, okay. All right, then. I apologize.
Well,
thank you.
What budget are you coming out of this with? You don't stipulate it. I'm sure it's not the C-395. This is the $3 million grant.
No, it's not a grant. It's a appropriations. It's $3 million. You're correct, but it is not a grant. It's Congress appropriated this money for us to use specifically for plugging wells.
Congress.
This, if I may, this is under Candy Thomas's self-governance agreement with the United States. It's not us. It's Candy Thomas agreement. We had this conversation, Chairman, and from what I gathered, you approved that we can just communicate as a well committee and us directly with Candy Thomas and Tammy, and with your head being the head to approve that we'll just keep you informed of how this is going. And so I don't see the need to put the resolutions in front of us. But that's my one of 8. We don't need to vote on this. Just as long as
you're thinking that we already have the authority to modify the budget without full council approval.
Correct. And I did get a verbal from Chairman. I thought that you were okay with that, since it's both this money and the EOR and the orphan well are under the self-governance agreement with Candy Thomas.
I think the affirmative answer you got from me was, as long as the nation and Candy Thomas and Tammy Leeper was happy, and it wasn't coming out of the C-395 or S-510.
Right.
I was fine with it. So that's what I had.
Because we don't need, if something goes wrong with that, they're going to have to answer, not us.
Okay. All right. So do you need a resolution? Do you want to rescind that or
I'll withdraw it, rescind it.
And I'll amend my second.
Okay. All right. So at least we know what we're doing.
All right. Well, I have one other resolution proposed if you're ready.
Okay.
Okay. So, uh, and I don't know if the our host can bring it up on the screen or not, but
Yes.
uh, we would like to. In Candy Thomas was uh, suggested that we do this also. Uh, is to utilize part of our $3 million. If you remember, um, 1.25 million was supposed to be used on emergency wells, plugging only, no other uses for that. 1.25 for non-emergency wells, and there was 500,000 left over that was, I refer to it as discretionary. And we are, I'm proposing by this resolution to move uh, uh, part of that 500,000 over to a line item on our budget uh, to uh, to pay for 90% of our geologist's salary. Uh, right now, 90% of his salary is being paid for out of the EOR grant, and they've hired, I believe, a consultant to do that type of work and can release our geologist from his services for that committee. And our plugging committee is relying very heavily on our geologist, Bill Lynn, and Kenny Thomas was okay with us starting to pick up his 90% of his salary out of this $3 million. So the resolution is to for approval uh, for for the well plating committee to modify the budget to use part of the $3 million to go over to a line item specifically to pay Bill's our geologist's salary. I think
90%.
I think it's under professional fees. Uh, Susan, you could correct me if I'm wrong. I can't read this on
Um,
on the phone.
let's see, I'm sure we say that. Let's see, it says there is a need for a well plugging committee to utilize the expertise of the OMC geologist to assist with plugging of emergency and non-emergency wells. Therefore, be it resolved, the Osage Minerals Council is agreeable to pay 90% of the Osage Minerals Council geologist salary from the well plugging budget, moving it from the EOR grant. Let's see. I'm looking to see if it's higher than that. I thought we put that in there.
We're just paying 10%.
Point of order, and I may not be totally correct on this, but executive is where we normally discuss salaries,
Oops.
and I would like to know what Mr. Lynn's making. So, I mean, that's my one of eight. And Marcia, Councilman Harlan, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I was trying to keep this in line with the previous action wherein the committee asked us to not they don't want to bring their modifications because it's out of self-governance. They don't want to bring the budget modification to the full council. Um, but what we're doing here, so I'm not sure the resolution necessarily the way it's written needs to come before the full council if we keep with that line of thought. But what we're doing here is if the previous funding source has ended, the geologist would no longer be employed under that. So I think the true resolution that needs to be made here is to retain the services of the geologist under under this committee. I think that's the more appropriate resolution to be made, and they have the money to pay. It sounds like through the nation, supervise over their budget, and I just think that's more appropriate to say to do it that way if we're going to keep in line with the previous discussion.
That's kind of what I was thinking also. That was my second line of thought was we just approved to let them handle it. And then this came up and then I'm like, well, that's a discussion of salary. and that's usually not done in open. So,
Right.
what's the wishes of the council?
Well, I think if it's okay with Candy Thomas and Tammy Leeper, as like this last resolution, will this one move in that same fashion? Because nothing is changing other than money's coming from one grant, coming out of another appropriation. It's moved from the grant to the appropriation, so it doesn't affect our budget at all. The mineral council still pays their portion, and it hasn't changed and won't change. So I don't think we did, unless Candy said we needed it. Did she say we needed a resolution?
No,
Yeah, then I think we ought to just, with your approval, Chairman, just, I know it's a chairman decision.
Thank you
I'll
for that.
withdraw my resolution.
Councilwoman Gray.
They had discussed this with me, and I think that you and I had a discussion, as well. And, we have already budgeted for that 10% for FY 21. That's done. How he's paid on the grants is really through Candy. And it's just switching it over from one grant to the other. And, I just, when I had told you, I was fine with that. It's on their side of the paperwork, not on ours.
Second Chair Red Eagle.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I agree with that. On another part of this discussion, I was talking to Bill Lynn last week, and maybe in the first, no, it was last week. He said that the yard in the Shadlow building in Industrial Park, the chief denied that. Is that right, Paul?
Yes,
And
and he wants us to communicate directly with him instead of us going through the channels that we were.
yeah, whatever the case is, we're wide open again for another yard. And I've contacted a couple of people in town about a yard here locally, but nothing final yet. So we're still open on that. Thank you.
I'll withdraw my resolution, Chairman.
Okay. All right. That's fine with me. As long as I don't have to sign anything.
And Councilwoman Foreman, do you need to rescind your second?
Yes, I'll rescind my second.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Mr. Lynn has been in contact with Candy Thomas, and she said that she does need a resolution from the Minerals Council.
We're going to have to table it or go into executive because I don't need to know what he's being paid.
I think we need to go into executive because there were reasons why we needed to get this handled today.
I'd make a motion, we table this to next meeting.
A second.
Motion to table and got a second. Motion by Councilman Redcorn, second by Councilwoman Harlan. Call for the question.
Councilwoman Foreman?
No.
Councilwoman Gray?
No.
Councilwoman Harlan?
Yes.
Councilman Redcorn?
Yes.
Second Chair Red Eagle?
No.
Councilman Revard?
No.
Councilman Waller? Chairman Yates?
Yes.
Motion fails.
Okay.
Mr.
I
Chairman.
think we go into executive to address this.
Go ahead,
Mr.
Councilwoman
Chairman,
Harlan.
point of order. The reason for Councilman Redcorn's motion, the reason I agreed with his motion, it is inappropriate to go back into executive after we've come out. So that's why there was the motion to table it. It was, you cannot go back into executive after you've come out.
Is that in our bylaws?
That's Robert's Rules of Order.
I'm
fine. I'm fine with tabling it to next meeting unless, like I say, if we go into executive, I want no salaries. And that's, proprietary and salary discussion.
Hey, Candy, this is Colleen.
Councilwoman Gray,
Just a second.
probably you might put on mute.
Resolution from us to do.
Councilwoman Gray.
Yes, I mean, we've already suspended some rules today, and it's not that it's unheard of when, I wish we would have known, obviously, that it was something that would need to be done. But, when we don't take action, then we have, I don't want him to have a stop and pay. So I'm good, if we go back and take that 5 minutes to discuss it. I can, if you give me about a 5-minute break, we can find out what our 10% that we pay. And I don't have any problem with it if we go back. That's all I want to say.
I agree.
Okay. Well,
Do we need a
since our
motion?
motion to table failed, I guess I'll entertain a motion to go into emergency executive.
I second.
I'm not making the motion, I'm entertaining.
Oh, I'm sorry. I will make the motion that we suspend our rules temporarily to go back into executive.
I second it.
Chairman,
Yes.
this is Tolly. I've got Candy Thomas on the line. Can I introduce her?
Yes.
Okay. Candy, can you hear? Can you hear everything? Candy?
Yeah.
Can y'all hear Candy?
I
Yes.
can. Yes.
Okay, Candy, do we need a resolution from the Mineral Council to move Bill Lynn from the EOR to the well plugging?
The salary.
Already run that by the civil agency, CNBC, and they were fine with that, making that change. If the middle council is, they think they need to have a resolution to support it.
But your first answer was no. Could you repeat that again?
No, we've already had approval from the agency to be able to make that change in the EOR budget.
Did y'all?
So it's up to the minerals council to decide if they think there needs to be a resolution. It was my understanding at the last meeting that they passed a resolution allowing Paul to make adjustments to the well plugging budget.
I didn't, her answer was not clear. It was not coming through clear. Could you repeat for us, Tolly?
I
can't understand.
Candy, she can hear me. Candy said no. She's already gotten approval from the granting agencies to make the move. But she said the Mineral Council felt like they needed to have an approval. So that's why we're here today with this resolution. Is that correct, Candy?
Yes, and if it would be easier, Polly, I can call in on the link so everybody can hear me better.
Chairman, she's going to call in.
Good enough for me.
Okay. Thank you, Candy. You got the numbers?
Yes, Linnea sent it to me. I'll call in.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
She's going to call in, Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
I think.
Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman,
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I was trying to shut down some background noise here at the house.
oh, okay. So I think that brings us right back to the same place we started, which is that Paul's committee has that authority already, and a resolution's not necessary. They should just move ahead with their committee so there's no break in pay.
All right.
And she's saying she doesn't necessarily need that somebody on committee or council or something thought that we needed it, but we just verified that they can do what they want with that money, provided that they're using it for the purpose it's designed for. So I don't think we need to hear from Candy any further. I think we just need to tell Paul as committee chairman to go ahead, do what he needs to do. That's within his authority that we've already given them.
That's true. I agree.
that seems to be the consensus, and following with the prior action, I'm fine with that. So anyway, you think we should go ahead and wait for Candy to call in, or go ahead and move on and then maybe come back to get in?
He's gonna call in, and I think as we're going, there she is, it looks like.
Okay.
This is,
Ms. Thomas?
yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
That's better.
Okay.
If you could speak on the salary of Bill Lynn and the EOR grant and the well plugging and the 90% from one to the other.
Without mentioning dollar amounts.
You can
Right,
text me
no
later.
problem. I checked with the funding agency, DEMD, to see if we could make that budget adjustment, and they were fine with that. And then I sent a budget to Paul showing that 90% of his salary would be paid from well plugging, and the other 10% would remain with the Minerals Council budget. And the question was whether that had to be approved. In addition, the budget mod needed to be approved by the Minerals Council, or if the well plugging committee could just make the decision to make that budget mod. And I know there was some discussion at the last meeting about giving Paul some authority to make budget mods in the well plugging budget as needed.
It resulted in a misunderstanding. I remember the meeting well. And I think it resulted in just a total misunderstanding at the time. I think Councilwoman Gray and I were talking apples and oranges over each other, and so I just don't know how to clean it up, and so kind of relying on Councilwoman Harlan for point of order or procedural as to how to clean this up. And if I understand her correctly, while you were calling in, while you were off the air, Councilwoman Harlan advised us that she thinks that that I, as chairman in my committee, can make these decisions on our own without having to take it to the full council. And she recalls that that's how it was left, and that this issue doesn't really need any further discussion or action on the Mineral Council's behalf.
And Mr. Chairman, if I can, I remember there being a lot of confusion and maybe even some disagreement. And I don't know if people were talking past each other or what, but I think the most simplistic way to fix all of the last three issues we've discussed is I make a motion that the Minerals Council give full authority to the committee, and this is the Orphan Well Committee, correct?
Plugging.
Sorry, Well Plugging Committee. I get the two confused, I'm sorry. For the Orphan Well Committee to administer its budget according to the design of the funding. And then they just move forward with this, if I can get a second on that.
Chairman, there's already a motion on the floor.
Well plugging committee.
I'm sorry, Paul. I'm brain dead. I have chemo brain. Well plugging committee.
Chairman,
We got a motion.
there's already a motion on the floor, I believe.
I'll second.
There's already a motion on the floor.
There's already a motion on the floor.
Oh,
What was the motion?
Emergency executive.
The emergency executive session.
well,
I think we can rescind that. Yeah.
that was mine, wasn't it? I'll rescind it.
I rescind my second.
Very well.
Okay.
Now can we move forward on my motion?
Yes.
And that will clear everything up from here on out.
Okay. We got a motion by Councilwoman Harlan. We need a second.
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Foreman. Could you repeat the question?
The motion is that the OMC authorizes the well plugging committee chairman and the committee to modify and administer their budget in accordance with the design of the funding.
I second.
It's already got a second.
Oh, it's right there.
Call for the question.
Yeah.
Call for the question.
And may I have one comment, Chairman?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like the advice of, I guess, the entire council. Do you all think this is a vote that me as chairman of the committee should abstain from participating in?
No, you can
The whole
participate.
committee.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Call for the question.
Councilwoman Gray,
Yes.
Councilwoman Harlan,
Yes.
Councilman Redcorn,
Yes.
Second Chair Red Eagle,
Yes.
Councilman Rebar,
Yes.
Councilman Waller, Chairman Yates,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foreman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Now, Paul,
Yes.
quit bringing your well plugging orphan committee business to us.
I promise. I'm sorry.
All right. Moving on to business development on committees. Ollie, no, is that Margot? Councilwoman
Yes.
Gray?
Councilwoman Gray. Of course, you did that right when I took a bite of a cracker. Okay. Well, if you all recall when we were on the White House call, when they were telling us what grants were available, DEMD, John Black Hair, and we knew that they told us that the Ted C grant was coming back up. Well, Candy has pretty much kept me on track of, hey, this is the due date, this is when you need to have some things completed. So we took the old grant and read what the solicitation is. Last year, we only had 10 total pages to turn in. And there was like 40 or 50 submissions, and we came in like 21, 22. But the focus that last year was on tribal utility authorities. And so we were asking for business development money. And so now that we've gone through the Terra pre-application consultation, we've got support from National Congress of American Indians. We have moved forward according to our strategic plan where we're moving into more a business foundation. And it will probably take the rest of our, I hope it won't take that long, but the next year to really work through getting this, if we get this grant, it'll help offset some of those costs from looking at setting up business development, a foundation. And we heard from Wilson that Osage is, I'll just say it this way, and this is the way I explain it, it's like a horse of a different color. Because we are not like a regular, a tribe that has land base and we are like leading the nation. We're an independent agency, so we fall under some different rules, and like we said, we have the ability to make our own rules as long as we are not in conflict with the Osage Nation laws and the U.S. federal laws. So this grant is to move us forward, but I need one resolution out of this body, and it is like it's like a exhibit that, yes, all it's saying is that we will submit this Ted C grant. I've been working on it, and then I'm sending it, in fact, Marcia just sent her resume and her feedback on the executive summary. The rest of it is just how we're gonna spend it. So it's the goal is we can ask up to $1 million. And so that's where we are on this. And you know, our relationship with, you know, DEMD and IEED is, I think it's a great working relationship, and we've been successful on completing out different grants. And so this isn't nothing new for us to do, but hopefully we'll have the completed draft by Friday afternoon, and then it goes over to Candy Thomas's office, and then she gets the chief's cover letter, and Chris Dating-Bear, Director of Grants, will review it, and he will submit it to us. It is due September 1st. And that's, you know, if you think we're being over aggressive and asking for the $1 million, or we ask for 750,000, but this is what it will do. It'll, there's a list of things we can't use it on, but one things we can use it on is helping, getting a consultant to help develop these grants. We, not develop the grants, but the laws, the codes, the regulations. And this kind of goes, it goes hand in hand with what we're doing on Terra. But even if we had decided to off-road Terra, these will still stand. We have the ability to get in economic development and set up a regulatory and also a business development. But this is just additional funds to get us there. So this is for the planning and development of energy-related tribal businesses. Chairman. So what I'm asking for is support. This is just a document, is a supporting document that says that we will, yes, apply for this grant. I don't know where Andrew went. There he is.
Councilman Redcorn.
Thank you, Chair. I make a motion, we accept this resolution as written for the Mineral Council to submit a $1 million request to DMD for TEDC grant money. And I'd like to make a modification. When the grant title is complete, the chairman has the authority to add that title to the resolution.
Got a motion.
second.
Or second by Councilwoman Harlan.
Yes.
Discussion.
I have a comment, if I may.
Go ahead.
The
Now
title,
go
the
Go
title,
ahead.
thank you, Chair. The title is required on the resolution or they won't grant it. So that's why I made the modification. So once you know, Chairman, the title from Ms. Gray, you have the authority to add it into the resolution.
Okay. Councilwoman Foreman.
Thank you, Chair. I have several questions. First of all, any idea what the title might be? I mean, if you've written the grant, do you have any idea?
It's here. And this is what it's called. And this is what it will be. It's the Tribal Energy Development Capacity Grant for the Osage Nation in coordination with the Osage Minerals Council.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Now, I have some questions about some of the verbiage on this. You know, it's my understanding this is the resolution to approve us applying for the grant, but we've got some heavy duty language here. For instance, I'm not real sure in paragraph 2,
can you pull
you're talking about agreements, certificates, documents, instruments contemplated by any of the above documents, assurances or guarantees. What is all that? Why is that in there?
Okay, hold on. Can you scroll it up so we can see it?
Yeah, paragraph 2. I'm sorry, I have it on my board booklet. I can read it lots better that way.
I'm gonna look at Lacey when we're doing this because, that additional information is probably what we have used for all the other grants that we have submitted.
I think Councilwoman Harlan initially wrote this grant or this resolution for the last grant, so we used this exact same resolution.
Okay, but why did we include agreements, certificates, documents? I don't understand why that has to be in there.
Well, this might be a good time if Candy is still on the line, because we get that information from them. All we're saying is that we are, and I'll be glad to maybe call Candy and see if she can get back on here. She's the one who, she's on the line. Is she on the line, Candy?
Yeah, I'm still here. I don't
Okay.
understand what the question is because
Okay.
I don't have that document in front of me, but ask me and I'll try to explain it.
Okay. Last year, I believe what Lacey had done is that she just took what we submitted last year and just, in paragraph 1, she just made the modification because last year we asked for like 118,000 or such. And then in number 2, it says the Osage Minerals Council hereby approves the submission of the TEDC grant. And what we did is, I believe we got a template from you, and this verbiage was on here. Can you tell us, is this standard language, or do we need to remove it?
Well, I would like to clarify my question. Candy, what it says is that the Osage Minerals Council approves the submission and authorizes, and this is what I had the question about, and authorizes the council cleaner to execute, deliver, and perform all agreements, certificates, documents, including any and all instruments contemplated by any of the above documents, assurances, and/or guarantees. So I was just wondering why all that's in there. I mean, why is that necessary?
Well, that's what, let's let Candy answer that. And just for the record, Candy, this is the nation will oversee this grant. Candy will submit the reports. She will, she's under self-governance, this is part of her job. So Candy, can you answer Councilwoman Foreman's question?
Well, I'm trying to find the resolution that was in the last grant to see that wording so I can see it a little better. But
I think
I think the main point of the resolution from the Minerals Council is just that they support the submission of the grant.
Right, but
it's here it is. I found it from last year.
Okay.
Yeah, it has that same wording in there last year. I think you're just authorizing the nation to submit the grant. The nation's submitting it on behalf of the Osage Minerals Council. So you all will be implementing the grant. Usually how that works, just like the other EMDP grants, my office is come through the self-governance agreement. My office will have financial responsibility, quarterly reporting, and all those kinds of things. And you all will be responsible for implementing the actual scope of the project.
Right. Well, I understand that. I just was not familiar with what agreements, certificates, assurances, and different instruments, what that related to, but I'll find that out later. I have one.
Well, I think, Susan, what that relates to is any agreements for vendors, contracts for vendors, or anything that you need to execute or implement the grant. You have the authority to do that.
Okay, good. Now, my next question, and this might be directed toward Marcia and, I'm sorry, Council members Harlan and Gray. On number 3, it says that all acts and deeds heretofore done or actions taken by any Osage Minerals Council member and/or chair in entering into, executing, acknowledging, or attesting to any arrangements, agreements, and instruments or documents in carrying out the terms and intentions of the foregoing TEDC grant.
Okay.
Are ratified, confirmed, and approved. And I guess what threw me off is it says that all acts and deeds heretofore or actions are
Okay.
ratified and confirmed. Actions by any singular member on their own, is that what that means?
I believe if you just recognize what we did with the well plugging chair, that
Yeah.
if, you know, that he has an employee under there, that he oversees it and works with Candy on it. It's probably worded a little bit more legally than what we just did. But
Yeah.
what it says, the minerals councilman and or chair in entering and accepting, acknowledge or attesting to any of the arrangements, agreements. Those agreements, and of course, they will all go through Candy's office and direct us that if we need to have the chair sign anything or, you know, it's just covering us on the TEDC grant.
Okay.
If we get it, I mean, that's if we get it, you know.
Yeah. Okay, well, I just wanted to understand exactly, you know, what I was agreeing to. And I'm certainly not against going after this money, you
Yeah.
know, and doing that work. But all right, thank you.
Okay. Can we call for the question?
Call for the question.
Oh, we need to call for the question. Is everyone through discussing? Pardon, I'm sorry, I lost track. Call for the question.
Councilwoman Harlan,
Yes.
Councilman Redcorn,
Yes.
Second Chair Red Eagle,
Yes.
Councilman Rebar,
Yes.
Chairman Yates,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foreman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, moving on to the agenda. I've got people calling, I've got kids fighting. I've lost my agenda.
Meeting minutes.
It's meeting
here.
minutes.
Meeting minutes.
I move to approve the last meeting minutes.
Second.
We got a motion on the floor to accept the minutes by Councilwoman Harlan and seconded by Councilwoman Gray. Any discussion? Seeing none, call for the question.
Councilman Redcorn,
Yes.
Second Chair Red Eagle,
Yes.
Councilman Rebar,
Yes.
Chairman Yates,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foreman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray,
Yes.
Councilwoman Harlan.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Chairman, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Motion to adjourn by Councilwoman Harlan, second by Councilman Redcorn.
Red Eagle.
Red Eagle.
Red Eagle, I apologize.
Oh, oh,
Okay, call for the question.
Second Chair Red Eagle,
Yes.
Councilman Rebar,
Yes.
Chairman Yates,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foreman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray,
Yes.
Councilwoman Harlan,
Yes.
Councilman Redcorn.
yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you, council. That's it's our meeting. Lacey, if any resolutions I need to sign, let me know when you got them ready. Otherwise, I'll see you guys soon. And have a good day and stay safe.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.